By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to handle a narcissist with integrity. So stick around. I've got a lot of good stuff for you today. Let's dive in. Hello friends, Tamie M, Joyce here, empowerment life coach specializing in codependency and narcissistic abuse recovery for empaths, scapegoats, and awakening light leaders. Thank you for watching my channel, and thank you for subscribing, by the way. And if you haven't already, please do so now, and be sure to hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos throughout the week. So let's talk about how to handle a narcissist with integrity. First of all, what is integrity? Well, integrity is defined as the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles and acting in accordance with those principles and your personal values. Now, the challenge we face when dealing with people with a destructive narcissist personality pattern is we often have to choose our battles without losing ourselves or sacrificing our dignity and integrity in the process. Living a life aligned with our personal integrity and sense of self-esteem and self-respect, while simultaneously engaging with toxic and empathy-impaired emotional manipulators who feel entitled to smear, exploit, deceive, as well as diminish and devalue others, can be a challenge to say the least, but it can be done. Here's how. Number one, deal in reality. First of all, we have to deal in reality. This means no magical thinking when it comes to the narcissist. When you're dealing with someone with a destructive narcissist personality pattern, you're dealing with someone who only thinks of themselves and their own needs. Even if they work really hard to be seen as the ultimate do-gooder, you know that it's coming from a self-serving place. In other words, it's about perception manipulation. These are people who feel entitled to gossip about, malign, mistreat, and otherwise target others, especially anyone who is a threat to their false image and fragile ego. They are often deceptive, highly manipulative, and overly arrogant. And this is true even of the covert narcissist. They're just more subtle and sneaky about it, hence the term covert. And if you want to learn more about how to spot a covert narcissist, you can watch this video here. Now, the important thing to accept is that this destructive personality pattern isn't going to change. If you're dealing with someone who lacks empathy or exhibits an inflated sense of entitlement, heartbreaking as it might be to surrender to this reality, it is vital to understand that people who land on the spectrum of destructive narcissism don't change. Furthermore, it's not your job to fix, rescue, manage, control, or attempt to change another adult human being. And if that's where you're at, I'm going to give you some tough love here. Forget about them. You have work to do. In other words, you need codependency recovery at the very least. Why? Because we can become very sick emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and physically when we spend all of our time, attention, resources, and energy trying to fix, manage, control, or change another human being. Especially a human being who sees no problem with their toxic attitude and behavior and has zero desire or ability to make the changes necessary in order to be able to show up in their relationships in a healthy way. If they could, they'd be doing it already. If you've latched on to a toxic emotional manipulator and you're driving yourself crazy trying to affect change in that person, it's time to stop and start focusing on yourself. You can begin by affirming the 3 C's of recovery daily until you've fully surrendered to the reality. Now, the 3 C's are, I did not cause it, I can't cure it, and I can't control it. Let go of the fantasy that you will be able to learn how to become something that will influence or affect change in the narcissist. It's not going to happen. Not for real, anyway. On occasion, it might look like it is in the short term when things start getting real for the narcissist and they're scrambling to keep you in place. When that's the case, know this: you're being manipulated. Lasting change where they actually show up in a healthy way, consistently, reliably, and predictably over the long term is not something a narcissist can sustain for any length of time. So stop hurting yourself with fantastic and magical thinking and instead do yourself a favor and start telling yourself the truth, hard as it might be, and learn to deal in reality. You'll be so much better off, I promise. Number 2, become immune. No matter what kind of relationship you're in with the narcissist or who the narcissist is in your life, when you drop the obsessive compulsive focus on them and instead become focused on your own healing and recovery work, you become more and more immune to the nonsense. You learn how to not allow them to affect, influence, or determine how you feel about yourself. You don't take on any of their projections. You become far less affected by their distorted perceptions of you and reality. You aren't susceptible to manipulation or gaslighting. You could care less about the smear campaign they're running. You know who you are. You know what you live. You know what you did and did not do, what you did and did not say. You're good. Narcissists have to tear others down in an attempt, often a desperate attempt, to prop themselves up with a false sense of superiority. They cannot stand you feeling good about yourself. They cannot abide anyone, including themselves, having the perception that you've got something going for you or something good happening in your life. It shows them up, highlights all of their shortcomings, inadequacies, and character defects, and they don't like that. It triggers all of their fear and insecurity. And this is why narcissists are fundamentally incapable of being genuinely happy for another person's effort, talent, or success. Even potential success is enough to trigger the narcissist. So demean and discredit you and target you they will. And when you've done your work, it has zero effect on you. You're immune, empowered, and free, quite literally. And from there, dealing with a narcissist from a place of alignment with your personal integrity becomes much easier to do. Now, I'm not saying this is easy initially. We're not robots. And if you're tuning into me, chances are good you're a highly empathic human being. And the truth is, it's easier to give up our expectations and standards than it is to relinquish our natural longings for authentic closeness and a feeling of belonging and safety, security, validation, and acceptance in our relationships. We want, and frankly need, to feel seen, heard, and understood by those closest to us. The point I'm making is, by doing our own healing and recovery work, we learn to give these things to ourselves. So we are not walking out into the world suffering from what Ross Rosenberg calls a self-love deficit disorder, and thus attracting and tolerating all manner of toxicity and abuse in our lives. And when we do bump into someone of this ilk, we see it for what it is and are far better equipped to take care of ourselves accordingly, no matter the fallout with the narcissist and their little entourage. We don't expect unloving people to give us something they don't have to give. Instead, we go where the love is and we learn to give it to ourselves first. Again, we know who we are, we know what we live, and we're good. Number 3, healthy limits and boundaries. The goal is to be able to stand up for yourself without getting caught in the crossfire and without triggering the narcissist's aggression. And being able to do this successfully requires having the ability to set healthy limits and boundaries and follow through when we do. In other words, say what you mean what you say, stand your ground, and stick to your guns. And the truth is, both internal and external boundaries are important so you don't take on their projections, fall for their gaslighting tactics, and absorb their toxicity. When you're aligned with your personal integrity and you've been doing your work, this becomes so much easier to do. It's a skill you can develop, and in fact, it's a skill you must develop if you want to live a happy, healthy, peaceful, and productive life without all the extra nonsense that narcissistic people bring to the table. Here's the thing. You're allowed to say no, or no thank you, especially when you know you're being targeted or set up. No is not an invitation to ask the question 17 more times. It's a full and complete sentence, and when they push the issue, simply say, "I've already given you my answer," and then silence, not another word. When the narcissist realizes they can't manipulate, control, or dominate you, they aren't going to like it, and that's okay. You're not responsible for how they receive you. You're responsible for yourself, and that includes taking care of yourself, protecting yourself from harm, and living your life aligned with your personal integrity. And the truth is, how they respond to that is going to be a whole lot of information for you about who and what you're dealing with. And as Maya Angelou would say, when they show you who they are, believe them. the first time. You stay true to yourself and let them show you exactly who they are. Now you know, and that's a good thing. No matter how ugly they get, that's on them. Now comment below and tell me if you're struggling with a narcissist in your life, and if so, who are they? And if you'd like to learn more about the possibility of working with me in my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class, there is a link in the description below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team. Number 4, anticipate and navigate hot button issues. Here's the thing. When you know someone well enough, long enough, you can anticipate potential clashes and preempt the predictable pitfalls in your relationship. You can see them coming. You've experienced this pattern possibly for many years or decades even. And this actually serves and empowers you to protect yourself from attack by disabling the narcissist and any control they might otherwise have over you. This is the gift of experience, foresight, and wise discernment. This isn't about unhealthy avoidance, nor is it about spending your life walking on eggshells hoping to not upset the apple cart. Rather, it's about taking care of yourself and having enough humility, self-love, and self-respect to put your ego aside and sidestep senseless arguments and unproductive power struggles, which the narcissist loves, by the way. But they leave you feeling completely drained, further traumatized, and more hurt and confused than you were before the confrontation. By choosing to not take the bait or engage with the narcissist, you're choosing the high road. You're choosing self-care, self-love, self-respect, and you're choosing peace. And if you want to learn more about how to do that effectively, you can watch this video here and this video here. Number 5, hold them accountable for unacceptable behavior. One of the most frustrating aspects of living with, or working with a person with a destructive narcissist personality pattern is dealing with their lack of accountability. Anything that goes wrong is always someone else's fault. No matter how logically you argue or how much valid proof you hold in your hands, if they have to swear that the grass is blue and the sky is green, they will. They'll say whatever it takes to avoid accountability and being held responsible for the consequences and very real impact of their toxic attitude and behavior. We have one in our lives, from a distance of course, who literally goes so far as to blame the child she's been allowed to target for more than a decade. Now, needless to say, this is not someone I continue to engage with, but the point is they'll go to any lengths to deflect any and all responsibility for the harmful way they show up in their relationships, including putting the onus on an innocent and vulnerable child. It's insane, but it happens every day. And ignorant, empathy-impaired enablers allow this sort of thing to go on. And this is the reason many experts will tell you that holding a narcissist accountable is near impossible. In particular, if they have a nice little entourage of flying monkeys and little minions, which they almost always do. Because narcissists groom their enablers as thoroughly as they do their targets. In addition, narcissists use a lot of tactics to escape responsibility, starting with blame shifting, lying, and sometimes even intimidation. They'll accuse you of doing and being exactly what they themselves do and are. In other words, they'll project all of their own characteristics and behaviors onto anyone who is a perceived threat. And if you're endeavoring to hold them accountable, that's going to be you. They'll argue in circles for hours, days, or weeks, whatever it takes to wear you down and thoroughly exhaust you. They'll lie and deny and literally rewrite history to suit their own purposes. They'll divert from and avoid the real issue, and when that doesn't work, they'll attack. This is when the narcissist will attempt to bully the person endeavoring to hold them accountable, typically by resorting to emotional violence and sometimes even physical violence. So be careful out there. Needless to say, this is not an easy problem to solve, but here's what I've learned. Part of the answer is that when you want to hold sway with someone, in particular an individual with narcissistic tendencies, the equation works something like this. The more positive the connection between you, the more likely they are to listen. Narcissistic people loathe when anyone tries to make them admit their mistakes or shortcomings. So unless you have a good rapport with them, it's probably better you don't even go there. Now, this doesn't mean you need to give in to their bad behavior. What it means is, instead of attempting to hold this person accountable, consider finding a way to make them face the consequences for their mistakes. Also, if you can muster up enough patience, compassion, and humility, it can help to try to meet them where they're at. No matter how superior you may feel your position is, talking down to a narcissist isn't going to persuade them to hear you. So rather than playing judge and jury, instead, put your ego aside and try some humility combined with tough love. For example, you can say something like this: I can't be late for work today, so I'm sorry, I can't drop you off. Or, I don't know how to sort out our finances and can't figure out where our money is going, so I've opened a separate bank account and hired an accountant to come and see if they can help us sort out the mess. Or, I'm worried about you and I don't know how to help you, so unless you've got some ideas, I don't know what else to do except to talk to a doctor or a therapist or a lawyer and see if they can help. Or, I don't know how to handle you when you get so angry, and so moving forward, I'm simply going to leave when you start losing your temper. Know in advance I won't be back until you've calmed down and can be civil and respectful. Remember, this is not a negotiation. You're simply delivering information. And then, of course, there may be situations where there is nothing to be said. You simply need to stop fixing things for them, stop protecting them, stop rescuing them. In other words, stop enabling them. A narcissistic person will probably still get angry when you deliver this kind of information, so use your own judgment and play this carefully. These types of conversations are usually safer held in public, such as a park or a restaurant. And you need to make sure the consequences are real and they know you're not bluffing. They won't like what you're saying, but if you can show genuine concern for them and let somebody else play the bad guy, you can keep your connection while at the same time making them face the consequences of their own actions. And if your warning has no effect, then step out of the way and let life teach them the lesson they have coming. The thing to understand about holding a narcissist accountable is it will likely make you a target, so be sure you're strong enough to weather that storm. Now, to be honest with you, I always give people the benefit of the doubt and a reasonable number of chances. Not passes, but opportunities to show me who they really are. And once it's clear who and what I'm dealing with, how I personally hold narcissists accountable is they simply lose the benefit of a relationship with me. Once they show me who they are and what they're capable of, I don't delude myself into denial for the sake of the relationship, nor do I go along to get along and pretend to not see what I see, hear what I hear, and know what I know. Neither do I pretend to be someone I'm not just to survive time with these people. When they decide that maligning me is a good idea, when they lie to or about me, when they target me or others in my presence, I'm out. A relationship with me is a privilege, and if you show me you have a destructive narcissist personality pattern, covert or overt, I don't care. There's no room for you at the table of my life. But that's just me. My friends, I hope you got some value out of this today. If you liked what you heard, be sure to drop a like and a comment. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was. If you're new to my channel, a very special welcome. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos throughout the week. And once again, if you'd like to learn more about the possibility of working with me in my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class, there are links in the description below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team. And as always, I will leave you with this. Know your value. Know your value and unlock your freedom. Mwah. Much love. Bye for now.